The mayor's State of the City address makes national news, but for all the wrong reasons. Also this week, the push to expand your child's school year. We have a report. And a countdown to local election day begins. We pick apart some of the key issues you'll be deciding. And why trams and trains are getting derailed in Kansas City. Hello, I'm Nick Haynes. It's good to be back, and thanks to you, we're back after a very successful spring membership drive. We appreciate you supporting the station. This could actually be a Kansas City month in review, but we're going to do our best to pack it all in with the journalists you trust to report the news in our metro. With us is the Kansas City Star's City Hall reporter Lynn Horsley, KCPT special correspondent Sam Zeff, Bill Grady from News Radio 98.1 KMBZ, and Star reporter, columnist and blogger Dave Helling. A mayor's State of the State, or mayor's State of the City address, should I say, is normally a routine affair in which the elected office holder outlines the progress that's been made over the past year. Not so this week in Kansas City for Mayor Sly James, who makes national news as a man bolts on stage and interrupts his annual address before being tackled to the ground by the mayor's security detail. Take a look.
Those early efforts resulted in $5 billion in investment.
This man had just got through talking about exactly what he ain't did.
Well, that was unfortunate.
You were there, Lynn Horsley. What was the motivation behind this?
Well, this gentleman says that he wanted to call attention to the fact that the city has not done as much for the east side of Troost Avenue as it has for the west side of Troost Avenue, that there's disparity in the support that the city gives to east side neighborhoods. Unfortunately, the way he brought his message only accentuated how troubled that area is. The mayor was trying to highlight positive news in 18th and Vine, and all that happened is this highlighted how troubled that area remains.
Okay, who is the man?
His name is Deron Black. He ran unsuccessfully for the Missouri House. He was jailed and charged with essentially with disorderly conduct. He did apologize and said that he later realized his method was not very appropriate, and especially the way he behaved was not a good example for other young people. You know, it really stepped all over the mayor's message, in which he was trying to actually highlight some of the good that is going on east of Troost.
A lot of concern this week, Sam, about the security of the mayor in all of this, too. I mean, he's doing this not at City Hall, where there are metal detectors. He is doing this at the Gem Theatre in the 18th and Vine Jazz District.
Yeah, but you know, the difference between the mayor, and I read some of this, that, well, how you secure the president, or even maybe of a governor. But you know what? The mayor has to be accessible. Maybe not this accessible, but clearly you just can't rope him off from everybody else. I will tell you, when I saw the video, the first thing I thought was, well, you know what? Some people write op-eds, some people do this. And I was with working on a story last night with some people from the east side, and you know what? They truly believe that they have been forgotten, even by Mayor James, and good things, in fact, are happening, but the perception still on the east side is that they have been forgotten.
Is that the case, Bill Grady?
I don't think if you ask the mayor that, he would say that's the case, because there are some things that are in the works, and one is the East Patrol campus, and the feeling by the mayor and actually a number of residents and pastors and so forth in the area is that that's going to spark a revitalization, because it's going to bring a lot of people in that wouldn't be there, and there will be some ancillary benefits. There are an awful lot of vacant houses on the east side, and the mayor has talked about that, but he really hasn't given any specifics as to what he's going to do about it. He drove the crane last spring. I think you were there when he took down one or two houses. But that is a big, big problem, because they become drug houses and nests of crime and that kind of thing. So there is a whole lot of frustration, and as Lynn said, the city is trying to put a positive light on it. A lot to be done.
The Urban Core has been disintegrating for 3 decades, and I'm not sure that you can expect Mayor James to turn that around in the 2 years that he's been in office. They are going to take back control of their housing department. They're trying to get the Beacon Hill area under revitalization, and that's just taken for decades. I understand the frustration. I think the manner in which this gentleman chose to express it probably just convinced a lot of people who might be interested in investing in the urban core or getting involved in the urban core. It may have just convinced them that that area is too troubled and it's not worth our time and effort.
We were getting a lot of calls this week from some of our viewers saying, amen, we're going to be raising some beer money for him, in fact. We actually got viewers saying this to us, that he was representing their voice. But this was not the only disruption that he made at some civic events. This gentleman has been involved in disrupting other events in Kansas City, too.
And he apparently is going to run for mayor, or now says he may want to run for mayor. You know, Nick, what Lynn said is exactly right about, and Bill and Sam as well, about the long-term problems on the east side. There is, however, we should talk a little bit about specific concerns about Jermaine Reed, who's the 3rd District council person. That also came up during the reaction to this incident. As long as I've covered politics in Kansas City, there has been anger over the 3rd District City Council representative on the City Council, the whole list, Carol Coe, you just go down the list. That's largely because the 3rd District is more reliant than any other district in Kansas City on the government. I mean, it depends on the government, not just the police and fire, but housing and other things. And so the decisions of the 3rd District council person are critical in terms of extending services to the constituents in that district. Sadly, and I don't want to cast any aspersions on Jermaine, I haven't covered him that closely, but the reality is the district representatives from the 3rd District have not always been of the highest caliber. Sandra McFadden Weaver, for example, was a 3rd District councilwoman, that type of thing. So what you did see this week, the tactics were reprehensible and regrettable, but there is frustration with City Hall in that part of the city. There has been for many, many years, and that doesn't seem like it's getting addressed.
Okay, back to the gentleman concerned. Is he going to run for mayor, Lynn Horsley?
Well, as of noon yesterday, he said he wasn't. As of 5 p.m., he said he was. The mayor's race is 2 years away. We'll have to see.
Okay, is the mayor going to have a beefed-up security detail as a result of this? Is there going to be any changes?
Initially, he has not. His security detail reacted very promptly, and I think the mayor was thrilled and full of praise for how they handled it. Inevitably, I think there will be some distance. We may not see quite the level of access that people have. I think there will be some rethinking, but as Sam said, you can't wall the mayor off from his community.
Yeah, just quickly, after there was an attempt on Jay Nixon in Kansas City, someone tried to stab him.
At Penn Valley Community
College. The security for him did get tighter. You can see it now everywhere he goes. He has far more highway patrol officers with him than he did before, and it is harder to approach the governor than it was before that incident.
And all of this got sucked up all of the attention, of course, and we forgot entirely that it was a State of the City address. So, the mayor spent, I'm assuming, weeks carefully crafting a message that got lost entirely.
Exactly.
What was the State of the City then, Lynn?
Well,
you were there.
He said it was strong. I mean, we had the All-Star game.
We expected that, yes.
We had the All-Star game last year. I think everybody felt like that went beautifully. We're hosting some major basketball tournaments right now that are getting a lot of fans and are attracting a lot of support. The mayor is trying to address the city's appalling homicide rate, poor schools. There's incremental improvements in that regard. We've made progress with the housing. There are some developments. The downtown streetcar appears to be starting to go. So, it's a work in progress, obviously. What
could he point to as his the biggest success, do you think, over the last 12 months, Bill Grady?
I think it would be a lot of what Lynn said, and he has been a great cheerleader for the city in terms of getting out there on the cutting edge and trying to attract businesses. And now we have La Raza coming in 2015, and so there's not any one single thing I think that you can point to. Now, what I can tell you is that the mayor is concerned that although All-Star, the Big 12, all of those things that brought business, he is still very concerned that we don't have a convention center hotel. And he told me as of St. Patrick's Day, there are about 2 or 3 proposals on the table now. He wouldn't go much further, but he says we're closer now than we were in 5 years.
We do have a lot of other topics, but I didn't think there was any money for a convention center hotel.
There isn't. There
Okay.
isn't. So it'll have to be very, very, very creative.
Okay, quickly, what is the biggest challenge then that he still faces after, from the time of last year's State of the City address?
Crime in schools.
And those still haven't been fixed.
Exactly.
I do think he also faces problems with pensions for city workers. That remains on the table. That's a huge cost that hasn't really been settled as much as it has. And he did take a ding or two for his handling of the JJ's incident. Let's make sure we talk a little bit about that, because I think he was very aggressive in sort of making public statements that he may now regret. So one of the lessons he may have learned in the last year is to take a little bit more time when he addresses the public.
Well, next week on Kansas City Week in Review, we host the 2 candidates seeking to become the next mayor of Wyandotte County. If you weren't aware, Election Day is just around the corner. April 2nd is local election day all around the metro. In Kansas City, Missouri, voters have 3 questions to decide, including a renewal of a health care tax for the indigent.
The health levy helps cover the health care costs of those that are uninsured or underinsured in our community, which in turn helps keep health care costs lower for everyone, the rest of us.
The president and CEO of Truman Medical Centers, John Bluford, his hospital will be one of the biggest beneficiaries of the tax, which would last for 9 years and would add $43 to the property tax bill of a $100,000 home. But where does all of the rest of the money actually go, Lynn Horsley?
Part of it goes to the city's ambulance service, which has a lot of people that cannot pay their ambulance bills. And there are 5 local clinics, 1 in the Northland and then 4 south of the river, all of which I think have pretty good reputations. And so that Truman gets the lion's share, more than $10 million. The ambulance service gets about $2.4 million, and the clinic's about $2.4 million.
Now, we were told, though, of course, that the Affordable Care Act was going to be helping with all of the indigent. And so why do we actually need, then, to be paying for a health care tax for the indigent in Kansas City, Dave Helling?
Well, it's a great question, and it is the question that there's no organized opposition that I'm aware of, but that's the question you will hear asked is, there aren't supposed to be next year any uninsured people. The federal law requires everyone to have insurance. And so the question is, why would you, not only do you need to extend this tax, but why for 9 years? I mean, that's the other thing that people need to know, is that it's an extension for almost a decade, and Obamacare, the Affordable Care Act, is supposed to take care of that.
Well, of course, the Affordable Care Act presumed that they were going to expand Medicaid, include a lot more people who are making 138% of the federal poverty level, and that appears to be going down in flames, certainly in Kansas, most likely in Missouri. So a major predicate of Obamacare is not going to happen around here, and I think they anticipate that they're going to need this indigent care.
Well, and as John Bluford points out, Truman Medical Centers gets money from the federal government to cover the uninsured. That money is slated to go away whether or not more people are covered by Medicaid, because the Supreme Court ruling caught people off guard as to letting the states decide on the Medicaid issue. So the backers say that Obamacare is still a work in progress. They think it will take years for this insurance to really play out, and in the interim, they feel like they have a gap in funding they really need to cover. Again, the 9 years is a big question, and why they had to have exactly the same level of subsidy, that's also a question that voters will have to ponder.
And the other thing we should make clear is there is an existing levy that will stay in place. Even if this one fails, there are actually 2 health levies, a permanent levy. This one was supposed to be temporary when it first passed, to sort of get them over the hump. Like a lot of taxes in Kansas City, temporary taxes tend to become permanent, and they're trying to make this one permanent, and indeed say in moments of candor they expect it to be permanent in Kansas City.
I asked John Bluford, the head of Truman, what would happen if voters said no? Would they be closing programs? Would some providers be forced to shut down some facilities? Here's his answer.
Yeah, that is always the question, and it's a very complex question. And it's not an easy answer to that. One thing for sure, though, access would be cut out. So not as many people that we currently see will be able to avail themselves of the services.
Okay, so we're not going to be seeing, healthcare clinics shut down as a result of this then, Bill Grady, if people say no to this?
No, they won't be shut down, but there are a lot of questions that Mr. Bluford really not necessarily sidestep, but he makes an awful lot of money, and so that's one thing.
Okay, because we saw that on Tony's KC. They printed some of the tax forms from Truman Med, and they included his own salary at exceeding $800,000. The head of Swope Community Services, Frank Ellis, that runs Swope Community Center, which the Swope Park Health Center, which would be one of the recipients, at over $1 million.
Again, the numbers just don't play out. Now you know, he's a good, decent man and all that kind of stuff. The access question, I'm not sure that's totally been answered, because as Dave said, we already have existing health levies that do cover a lot of things that there is going to be a question in voters' minds, do we really need to extend this? But getting an extension is always easier than a new tax.
You've said that there weren't any opponents. Richard Tolbert, the former city councilman, said he wanted to be on this program to oppose the tax, and so we were going to do that. And then he had a medical emergency and went to Truman Medical Center and say he was helped.
I'm not saying there aren't people against it,
he was helped, and
yeah.
he changed his mind, having had a good experience at Truman Medical Center.
Formal opposition is very, very difficult to find to this tax, as it often is in Kansas City, and that's one reason why it is. The other thing to keep in mind is it isn't just about how much the CEOs make, at these institutions, but whether or not the very people they seek to serve, the poor, are unable to get insurance, largely because they're paying higher taxes in Kansas City on sales and property. And that question needs to be answered, I think, by voters.
The other thing that Richard Tolbert said to me on the phone, which is one of the reasons he changed his mind, is this is a property tax and not a sales tax. A property tax tends to hit more wealthier people. A sales tax hits the poorer more.
Right, no disagreement there, but the overall burden, as we've talked about on the show repeatedly, the overall tax burden in Kansas City is quite regressive. The earnings tax is regressive, sales tax are regressive. The poor people pay a bigger percentage of their taxes in this city than the rich do.
Okay, let's look at question 2, because I said there are 3 questions. Question 2 asks voters to approve approval to tax nonprofit conventions in Kansas City. And like every other city in Missouri, Kansas City exempts nonprofit conventions from paying the city's convention tax, costing apparently the city millions of dollars each year. Somebody thought that was a good idea at one time. Why else would it be there, Lynn Horsley?
Well, they don't remember why.
Oh, okay.
It apparently
All right,
dates
fine.
to 1989. Nobody can remember why this is, and why Kansas City is the only city that exempts nonprofits. So if nonprofit churches or other organizations go to St. Louis or Branson, or to conventions, hold conventions in the Johnson County portion of Kansas, they are not exempted from paying the local hotel tax.
Now, when we have, though, lots of nonprofit groups, and we have like the Baptist Convention and all of these nonprofit groups come here, will they not come here any longer if they're not going to get this nonprofit exemption?
Well, they go to St. Louis and Branson and other cities. They're not, the Convention and Visitors Association is not concerned. They say that the city can put this money to good use. It can be used for maintenance at Bartle Hall. It can be used to market Kansas City to tourists, and it will benefit this Neighborhood Tourist Development Fund, which is a popular fund.
Anything else to add on that?
The Revenue Commission recommended imposing this tax. I think that's one reason why it's on the budget. And by the way, the Mayor's Commission also recommended 4 years on the health levy, not 9.
And let me just quickly add, if nobody can remember why we did it, we should just get rid of it.
I said there were 3 questions. Question 3 asks, shall the city be barred from funding, financing, or subsidizing facilities involved in the production, assembling, or refurbishing of nuclear weapons or their component parts?
Many anti-nuclear extremists believe the United States should unilaterally disarm and dispose of its nuclear weapons. They have petitioned in Kansas City to stop the development and manufacturing of non-nuclear components that are used to improve the reliability, safety, and security of our nuclear deterrent. Keep America safe.
Excerpts from proponent and opponent ads running on the internet for this. So if I vote for this, what would actually happen? Bill Grady?
Nothing.
What do you mean nothing?
Well,
it's on the ballot. Come on, something's going to happen.
on the ballot,
here.
but it's not going to have any effect on the current the plant that's under construction out in South Kansas City. It would only be future future things. And the peace planners look upon this as a moral victory. They're making a statement, but in actual fact, in practice, it really would have very, very little effect because it's not likely the city is going to make further investments in nukes in the future.
Well, city officials have a different opinion. They say that if there are defense contractors that come in later that want to do business with this plant, and Kansas City might want to get their business, this prohibits them from giving incentives, and so they might get incentives from Grandview or Kansas, and it would just be another jobs loss. You know, they can't give any specific examples of who might be affected by this.
Okay, and on the no side, what happens then if you vote no?
Well, the status quo remains in place, Nick, and presumably Kansas City can give incentives away to defense contractors who come to town. Again, Lynn suggests there's no evidence that there's some rush to do that. This would not prohibit defense contractors from coming to town. It only prohibits the city from giving them incentives. That's an important difference for voters to know.
Alrighty. Did you know that Kansas has one of the longest school years in the nation and that Missouri has one of the shortest school years in the country? That doesn't sit well with Missouri Governor Jay Nixon, who's pushing a grand plan to extend the school year. KCPT special correspondent Sam Zeff has a closer look.
It's lunchtime at Kearney Elementary in the Kearney, Missouri School District. And as you can see, this is not the sort of lunchroom where students are forced to silently eat their chicken quesadillas. Nope, these students are having quite the good time. But if they knew what Missouri Governor Jay Nixon has in store for them, well, they might not be so happy.
Right now, Missouri has the 4th shortest school year in the nation. Adding 6 more days to the next school year will give teachers more time to work with their students and give kids more time to learn.
One of the highlights of Nixon's State of the State address was increasing the school year in Missouri from 174 days to 180. By comparison, Kansas has one of the longest school years, 186 days.
Where do you stand on increasing the school year by 6 days?
I like the idea. I think that any time that we can have students in the classroom for a longer period of time, it's good for learning.
Dr. Bill Nicely is superintendent in Kearney, a district with 3,600 students, 7 schools, and a $36 million budget. It's hard to find anyone opposed to extending the school year, so the question is, if these additional 6 days come to pass, how should schools use them?
What we hear from the teachers the most is, what do you need is time. Okay, so when we talk about needing time, what do you need time to do? And the time that's going to make the greatest impact on our students is that real engaging instructional time that they have with the kids.
And, says Deputy Education Commissioner Margie Vandeven, this might also give districts a chance to add back gym, music, and art.
Well, there's a significant amount of literature that talks about how you can better enhance your reading ability through art classes. You can better enhance your if you're physically fit and have had time to do some exercise in between your courses, that you'll be more focused on the work that you're doing.
It's not a shot in the arm that's the solution that will change the achievement level of students in the state of Missouri.
But more time in the classroom
does not necessarily equate to increased achievement.
No, says Dr. Leanne Taylor Knight, head of the Kansas City Area Education Research Consortium. It's all about how you use those days and the skills of teachers and principals. And since we're talking about changing the school calendar, she says, why not think really big?
Is there something about looking at a year-long calendar and actually having students spread out the days that are allotted and required to go to school over a 12-month period rather than an 8.5 or 9-month period?
I mean, you're talking about moving away from an agrarian calendar to an internet calendar.
Correct. That is something that's being tried in certain places and with certain groups of students, and it is something that has been discussed, I know, in some of our Missouri districts.
Of course, while it's nice to discuss these education issues at the 50,000-foot level, we do have to come back down to earth.
We've been speaking up to this point philosophically. Would it be great to add additional hours? What would those hours go for? And now, where the rubber meets the road is how we're going to pay for it.
Governor Nixon has proposed an extra $100 million for K-12 education to pay for these 6 extra days. But Missouri is already underfunding its public education formula by $200 million. And the General Assembly is in a tax-cutting mood.
I would hate to see this state make some of the decisions that Kansas did, because that's an experiment that we do not know the outcome. And I think Kansans are very worried about that.
Missouri law says that the state cannot mandate something without paying for it, but Nicely says what he gets from the state won't entirely cover the longer year.
So if we add 6 more days to your calendar, there's no way that you can not dip in to your local tax funding to pay for this.
That's correct. That is correct.
Sam, what's the reaction of the Missouri General Assembly then to the proposal to expand that school year?
Well, there's nobody in there who is against the concept. Republicans, Democrats, they all think that expanding the school year would be a good thing. The problem is that, one, Governor Nixon doesn't have a particularly good relationship with the General Assembly. He hasn't been able to find a Democrat to even offer the legislation. But more importantly, they just don't have the money. The Republican chairman of the Senate Education Committee says, great idea, but how are we going to pay for it? $200 million lied on the school funding formula. And as we've talked about at this table, has been talked about in many media outlets, the most important thing that they think about in Jefferson City right now is what's going on in Topeka in terms of cutting taxes. And the more you look at it, the more I'm convinced that the Missouri General Assembly is just a Sam Brownback cover band, and that's how they're moving forward through the session.
And that is our Week in Review. Our thanks to our news reviewers from the Kansas City Star, Lynn Horsley, and Bill Grady from KMBZ, the Star's Dave Helling, and KCPT special correspondent Sam Zeff. Next week, the 2 candidates vying to replace Joe Reardon as mayor of Wyandotte County debate on this program. Join us for that. Until then, I'm Nick Haynes. Thanks for joining us.